now. Okay, right. So previously, what we did was on the individuals stocks return. Now we want to continue with the expected returns of portfolio. Okay, in order to determine the expected returns of the portfolio, we need to determine first how many percent of the fund or money to be invested in each stock. So in our case here, right, it's already stated that, right, the weightage of the investment, okay, in stock A is 60%, in stock B is 40%. Okay. Um, Okay, so using this weightage, right? So we want to determine the expected returns of the portfolio. So this is how you calculate lah. Okay, weightage. So this expected returns of portfolio. Previously, if we are calculating for stocks A's expected return, that means there will be R bar or R hat here. Then we put A here, right? And if we are calculating for B, that means we put a B here. So here, right now, we want to calculate for portfolio. That means we simply put a P here. So therefore, we put P lah, and then equals to weightage. Weightage in stock A, weightage in stock B, and then weightage stock A you multiply by expected returns of stock A. Right? And weightage in stock B you multiply by expected returns of stock B. So this is the weightage just now, 60-40. Okay, so 0.6 times, so you get expected returns in the previous calculations of the individual stock, 17.5 and then 5.5%. Okay, right, and then you will get 12.7%. Boleh? Okay, the next one, we go to the standard deviation, variance first. We go to the variance and standard deviations of the portfolio of two stocks, risky stock here. So what are the two risky stock here? Stock A and stock B. So this is the formula for the standard deviations of the portfolio. So in this formula, right, in calculating the variance of portfolio and also standard deviations of the portfolio here, we cannot simply use the weightage formula as expected returns of the portfolio. So we cannot simply take weightage in A multiplied by standard deviations of A plus weightage in B multiplied standard deviations of B. Cannot. Why cannot? Because if you're using that formula, that means we are not considering or are not taking into consideration the diversification effect. When two stocks are combined in one portfolio, there must be a diversification effect or there must be a covariance or correlation between the two stocks. Okay, that means we have to consider the relationship when you form a portfolio. So that's why in the formula of standard deviation, the right formula, we take the relationship by substituting the covariance value into this formula. Okay, to show the diversification effects, right, between the two stocks, returns of the two stocks. Okay, so that's why we cannot simply take this one, weightage in stock A multiplied by standard deviations of stock A and then plus weightage stock B, right? Plus weightage in stock B and multiply by standard deviations of stock B. Cannot. Right? Kita kena masukkan the middle portion here. Okay? Right. So that's why the variance portfolios formula seems longer than the expected returns of the portfolios formula. Okay? Be careful kat situ. So by taking into consideration that formula, then we just simply plug in the figure from this table, right, into the formula where, right, the weightage in stock A 60% square multiplied by standard deviations of stock A square. Okay, here, right, this one. Okay. Sorry about the sound, right? So weightage in stock A 60% square multiplied by standard deviations of stock A square and plus 2 times the weightage of each stock 60% and 40%, and multiply by the covariance. So the covariance, this is where we get from the calculations previously, right, on the previous slide. And then weightage in stock B times standard deviations of stock B square. If you take the figure of standard deviation of stock A of each stock, don't forget to square. Tapi kalau you dah siap-siap ambil variance, sebab dekat sini kalau you notice, if it's a standard deviation square, this is actually a variance. If you take the variance from for your answer, okay, that means you don't have to squarekan dia sebab it's already squared. Okay, maksud saya ialah bila you kira variance last time, tengok variance, mana variance dia? Okay, let's say variance stock A here kan, you dapat 0.0666875. So you simply take this figure and then you substitute into this formula, right? This one. Instead of 2586, you ambil variance dia. So no need to square sebab it's already square. Understand? Okay, and then you plus all those figures and then you will get the variance of the portfolio equals to 0.0238500625. And then standard deviations of the portfolio, you just square root of this figure, then you will get what? 15.44%. Okay, right. Let's say you simply calculate the variance of the portfolio and standard deviations of the portfolio by the weighted average of the individual standard deviation. So you will look this one. Tengok dekat sini ni yang saya kata tadi. Kalau you guna formula ni untuk kira standard deviations of the portfolio, you are wrong. Alright, and then you can see that the portfolio standard deviation is going to be 20.12%, which is higher than yang kita kira tadi, which is 15.44, lower. Kenapa kat sini lower? Sebab kita ambil adanya diversification effect. Apa maksud diversification effect? Hedging. Apa maksud hedging? Offset. Maknanya the risk of the two stocks are offsetting each other. Maknanya dia apa? Dia cover loss of one stock, it's covered by the profits from another stock. Jadi dia akan mengurangkan risk of bankruptcy of the investors ataupun risk of huge loss tu tadi kan akan dikurangkan. Jadi kalau you guna formula ni tadi salah lah sebab kita tak consider diversification effects. Okay? Right. Okay. So this is what I mentioned last time. When we want to form a portfolio, we must make sure there is a negative or low covariance and correlation between stocks in the portfolio. So if it's a positive covariance between two stocks or security, it would increase the variance of the entire portfolio. Maknanya portfolio risk akan lebih tinggi. Sebab apa? Tak adanya diversification effect. Contoh, you invest ke duit you tadi RM1,000, 60% in Proton, 40% in Perodua. Both are in automotive industry. Jadi kalau automotive industry jatuh, maknanya dua stocks return akan jatuh. Tak ada stock lain yang akan cover the losses tadi. Kalau negative covariance, that means RM1,000 tadi, 60% you invest in Proton, 40% maybe you invest in oil and gas. Jadi kalau automotive industry jatuh, you still have another stock that can cover the losses. So there is a hedging, there is a diversification effect, so therefore the portfolio risk will be lower. Okay, right. And then what else? Okay, here, okay, this is the conclusion lah. We can say here, diversification can substantially reduce, right, can significantly reduce risk without an equivalent reduction in expected return. Risk that will reduce. Right, the risk is reduced to lower expected returns of one asset is offset by the higher expected returns from another asset. That means you are investing your money in different industry where the returns of these two stocks having a negative covariance and correlation. Okay. Right. Okay. However, when we are talking about portfolio, right, not all risk can be diversified away. Sebab tu dekat sini dia tulis, however, there is a systematic risk portion remain, which is still remain in the portfolio. The risk that can be diversified away adalah unsystematic risk. Unsystematic risk ataupun diversifiable risk. Maknanya risk yang kita boleh diversify away. Alright, tapi yang tinggal dalam portfolio you tadi adalah systematic risk. Sebab tu kita tak cakap boleh eliminated. Kita cuma cakap tadi reduce. Right, ataupun dekat sini pun kita tak cakap dan tak tulis pun dekat sini will be eliminated. Kalau eliminated maknanya zero lah, tak ada risk langsung dalam portfolio you kan. So kita tulis kat sini reduce. Why reduce? Sebab masih ada lagi risk that is remaining or that still remain in your portfolio, and that risk is called what? Systematic risk. Understand? Okay. Now, right, we go to the next slide. What the systematic risk and unsystematic risk all about? Okay, so firstly, we go to systematic risk. Systematic risk, another name used is uncontrollable risk or uncontrollable factor. So this is the risk that cannot be diversified away. That will be remain in the portfolio. Why is that? This risk, right, will affect all stocks in your portfolio. Okay, that means, right, can you see the white screen? Can or cannot?
Yes.
All right. So
Yeah.
that means, okay, yes, okay. Right. So let's say in your portfolio here, right, you have stock A and stock B, right? Both stocks has two types of risk. That means dalam stock tu tadi dia bawa dua jenis risk, systematic and unsystematic. Right? Unsystematic, systematic, and system. Jadi yang boleh diversified away via the diversification effects or via the hedging process tadi adalah yang mana? Yang ini. Okay, yang boleh diversified away ialah yang bahagian atas tadi. Jadi tinggalnya apa? Tinggalnya yang systematic. Right? Ini dia. So systematic risk ni tadi kenapa masih lagi remain? Sebab tak ada hedging Maksudnya apa? The stocks here are facing the same risk. Contoh let's say company A and company B. Both company are facing the what? COVID-19 pandemic. Betul tak? Okay? Masing-masing facing the same risk. Right? COVID-19 pandemic yang menyebabkan returns of stock A tadi jatuh. Betul tak? Okay, return stock A and return stock B. Jadi tak ada offset dekat situ. Stock A's return tak boleh bantu, stock B's return pun tak boleh bantu untuk cover any losses from any stock in this portfolio. Are you following? So this is yang kita kata systematic risk. Selain daripada COVID-19 pandemic, mungkin negara kita sekarang pun apa yang tak stable. Political kan? Right? Political instability. Betul tak? Right? Tak stable. Politik kita tak stable, orang takut nak invest. Jadi dia affect the performance of the company. Jadi both company are facing the same what? Risk. Jadi there is no apa? Diversification and there is no hedging. Right? Masing-masing mengalami masalah yang sama. Okay? That's why this risk cannot be diversified away, and that's why this risk is called as what? Uncontrollable risk, undiversifiable risk. Okay? Or sometimes it is called as the market risk. Understand? Okay, yang hilang, yang kita boleh minimize adalah yang unsystematic risk. Apa contoh unsystematic risk? We go back to the slide. So unsystematic risk are the risks that affect a limited number of stock. That means it is a unique risk or an asset specific risk. What does it mean? That means every stock, right, has different risks. Contoh dalam case ni tadi, okay, maybe stock A, alright, ada berita announce that the death of CEO dia. Right? So therefore needs to be replaced with a new CEO, which is what? Question mark here. Kita tak tahu siapa going to replace this old CEO. Betul tak? So jadi dekat sini the uncertainty of the new CEO here menyebabkan maybe return dia jatuh. Tapi the death of the CEO in company A here has nothing to do with company B, right? Company B CEO dia masih lagi sihat. Boleh lagi jalankan tugas. Right? Buat kerja masing-masing and so on. So returns on stock B is actually not what is it? Related to the death of CEO in company B. Unless kalau dia subsidiary ke apa ke kan. Lain. Okay, so that means it will not affect. So returns on stock B maybe remain the same ataupun maybe higher than returns on stock A. Jadi the increase in returns on stock A here, okay, boleh offset the return falls in what? Company. Return in stock B tadi higher, okay, is higher than returns on stock A. Jadi the increase in returns on stock B can offset the returns of stock, loss of stock A. Jadi dekat situ kita boleh ada apa kat sini?
Diversification.
Yes, diversification effect. Are you following? Yang menyebabkan the portfolio risk reduce. Okay? Sorry. Okay, boleh? Right. Now we go to the next one. Okay, that's why if we show in the diagram here, sorry. Okay, so the risk will decline. Dia takkan touch line 0 here. Jadi you akan nampak kat sini systematic will still remain. Yang boleh minimize, yang boleh reduce hanyalah unsystematic risk. Okay? Right. So that's about it, the types of risk. Okay. When we are talking about portfolio just now, the weightage here stated is 60-40. Okay? Tapi kalau dalam reality, investors ada options. Right? The investors has option. Currently, options yang investor ada to form a portfolio. Okay? Right? Options ataupun choices ataupun opportunities, right? Yang available to the investors adalah not necessary to invest in stock 60% with the weightage of 60, 40% in B, right? They also have another choice to invest 50% in A, 50% in B, right? Or sometimes maybe ada investors yang form a portfolio and that investors is risk averse. If it's a risk averse, dia akan invest more in B. Let's say 80% in B, only 20% in A, or maybe 90% in B, 10% in A. If they are risk taker, they might invest more in A lah. Maybe 90% in A and 10% in B and etc. lah. So maknanya banyak choices, okay, that are available to the investor. Okay, so investors banyak choices kat sini. So these choices is called as an opportunity set. So kalau kita draw the diagram, dia kalau kita plot bila kita kira kalau 60-40 tadi, dia punya expected return berapa, standard deviations of portfolio pun berapa, betul tak? Kalau 50-50, kita kena kira lagi expected return dia berapa, standard deviation portfolio akan berubah lah. Expected return dan standard deviations of portfolio will change. Kenapa? Sebab proportion ni tadi berubah. Jadi bila kita dapat figure ni tadi, right? And then kita draw the diagram, this is expected returns of the portfolio, this is the standard deviations of portfolio. Kita akan ada titik tau, combination kat sini, right? Dan tapi disebabkan kita dua stok, biasanya opportunity set ni tadi, bila kita draw dalam graph here, dia akan tend to be like this. Bila kita sambungkan titik-titik tu tadi, titik tu akan jadi gini. Right? Right, boleh jadi dia punya titik akan jadi begini. Dia punya bentuk tadi. Curve dia bend backward. Okay, backward. Bend backward. So dia akan jadi macam ni ke? Right, dia akan jadi macam ni ke? Ataupun dia makin ke belakang lagi ke? Makin jauh ke? Makin dekat ke dengan vertical axis? Macam mana, apa yang menentukan dia punya bentuk makin dekat atau makin jauh daripada vertical axis tu tadi? Dia bergantung kepada covariance and correlation. So katakanlah tadi kita dah kira dalam kita punya slide tu tadi, covariance dia adalah berapa? Ni tadi kan? Covariance dia adalah, let me show you here. Okay, covariance and correlation dia adalah negative relationship 0.004875 and negative 0.1639, right? Jadi kalau kita tengok diagram ni dah tunjuk dekat slide lah dia punya diagram. This is the combination yang saya mention tadi, dan kita akan dapat kena kira lah standard deviations of portfolio, expected returns of the portfolio kalau berubahnya weightage tu tadi. Okay, jadi bila kita plot dalam graph, inilah bentuk dia. So dia akan jadi begini. Sebab apa bentuk dia jadi begini? Dia curve bend, dia bend backward begini sebab dia punya covariance and correlation. So it depends on covariance and correlation. Okay, right. Kalau dia makin kecil lagi kecil maknanya menghampiri negatif 1, dia akan jadi begini. Lagi kecil, lagi bengkok ke belakang. Right, lagi dekat ke positive value, positive 1. So kita tahu the range kita kena ingat covariance, right, between stock, let's say in this case stock A and B, covariance adalah between negative 1 and positive 1. Jadi kalaulah dia menghampiri negatif, maknanya dia punya shape akan jadi, dia akan touch macam ni. Itu perfectly negatif lah, negative 1. Kalau makin macam kita dapat dalam contoh kita tadi, dia akan jadi gini lah. Dia makin bengkok. Tapi kalau dia approach positif, dia akan jadi straight line. This is positive 1. Maknanya perfectly positive related. Right? Okay? Alright. Okay. So efficient set tadi saya dah sebut dekat sini. Opportunity set. Right, so this will be the opportunity set. Okay, opportunity set start daripada point A, right, go through this curve sampailah point B. So this opportunity set consists of different combination yang kita dapat dekat sini. Tapi dalam banyak-banyak combination here, which combination is considered as the best and the most efficient or the most profitable to the investors? Option mana yang dia nak kena pilih? So dia akan pilih combinations of the two stock here starting daripada point MV to point B. Sebab from point MV to point B, the expected returns of the portfolio is going to be higher. Okay? Right. Okay, next itu untuk kalau kita combine dua risky asset or two risky asset. Right. Dan yang ini kita panggil efficient set. Right. Maksudnya kalau saya draw diagram tu tadi. Okay. Macam ni. Okay. Let's say kita based on the covariance tadi. Inilah dia A. Inilah B. Dan ini adalah titik MV. Point MV tadi. So daripada titik sini melalui curve ni tadi. Ini kita panggil opportunity set. Okay, inilah pilihan-pilihan yang ada yang akan memberi different expected returns of the portfolio. Tapi portfolio mana yang boleh kita kata the most efficient one? It starts from point MV here. Okay, from point MV to point B. Yang ini, the blue line here kita panggil efficient set. Why? From point MV to point B here, dia akan provide apa? Higher return. Okay. And point MV here, if you notice, dekat sini, this is point where the standard deviation portfolio is the lowest one. Tapi still, can still provide you higher returns of the portfolio. Berbanding dengan titik dekat sini. Let's say portfolio you, combination portfolio Z katakan that consists of maybe it approach or near A, and A is the risk-free asset. Titik A, point A here adalah di mana dekat sini tadi adalah apa ni okay ni standard deviation adalah 11.5, sorry 5.5 guys. 5.5 stop apa stop B lah kan, dia punya return kan. Okay, standard deviation ni 11.5. okay, so standard deviation here untuk stock B 11.5%, and then return dia hanyalah 5.5%. Right. Kalau you invest dalam portfolio ni, portfolio Z here that consists of maybe dia dekat kan dengan B, so 80% in stock B, 20% in stock A. Right, so that means you punya standard deviation is here, risk here, okay, standard deviation, and this is the return. Compared to this point, this is the portfolio, same standard deviation, here standard deviation sama tapi return dia adalah lebih tinggi. So kalau you sebagai investors, which one you prefer? Definitely we prefer the higher expected returns, right? At the same standard deviation, tapi return yang lebih tinggi kan. So you will choose this portfolio. So that's why starting from point MV to point B is considered as the efficient set. Okay, right. Okay, the next one, we go to what happen if you have many stocks in your portfolio. Right, tadi portfolio you consists of two stocks, right? Stock A and stock B, both are risky stocks. Okay, what happen if you want to form a portfolio, but this time your portfolio consists of A, B, C, D. All are risky stock. Okay, the four stock here are risky stock. So what happened to your opportunity set? Where is the opportunity set? Where is the efficient set? And again, right? Kalau kita tunjuk, okay, kalau for many stock A, B, C, and D, kalau you want to draw the opportunity set, vertical axis for expected returns of the portfolio, standard deviations of the portfolio. So you have A, B, C, D. So definitely you would have so many combinations A, B, C, D, right? Alright, so titik dia akan jadi begini. Lagi banyak combination. Titik ni is representing a combination. So maybe this one 10% in A, 20% in B, and the rest in C and D percentage. Okay, and then this one titiknya scattered. So that's why you akan dapat the what opportunity set like this, a confined region. Okay, so that means kalau you draw, okay, it becomes like this lah. Okay, so right, the shaded area here consists of the opportunity set. Right, it's called as opportunity set. That means you have so many, more than 2 risky asset tadi kan, option you makin lama makin banyak, beribu-ribu option you. Alright, tapi dalam banyak-banyak option yang banyak ni, combination of the stocks here, which combination is the most efficient one ataupun the most profitable to you? So again, masih lagi daripada titik MV, katakanlah bentuk dia begini tadi kan. Inilah titik MV dia. Inilah titik MV dia sebab this is the lowest standard deviations of the portfolio. So maknanya starting from here, right, up to here. Ini yang kita kata efficient frontier. Okay, kalau dalam kita panggil opportunity set. Okay, contoh kita ambil portfolio So, saya padamkan ni. Okay, right, let's say. Okay, saya draw balik. Right, ni titik B, ni titik A tadi. Okay, right, atau ni maybe untuk stock B lagi senang lah nak ingat ni stock A. Sebab stock A higher kan standard deviation dia, stock B lower kan. Okay, so katakanlah you ada dua portfolio. Satu portfolio on this line that is on the efficient frontier, satu lagi dalam shaded area. Dan both portfolio, let's say portfolio 1, portfolio 2. So both portfolio gives you the same standard deviation. Let's say standard deviation here adalah 11%. Tapi both portfolio, kedua-dua portfolio you here, options here gives what? Give two different expected return. This is expected return for portfolio 1, this is expected return for portfolio 2. Right? But then both standard deviation adalah sama, 11. So you as the investor, mesti you nak pilih yang mana? Mestilah kita akan pilih portfolio 1. At the same standard deviation, right? Portfolio 1 gives you higher returns. That's why any points lies on this curve is considered as the efficient frontier or efficient set. Maknanya any lines here kita panggil, maknanya any points on this line is called as the efficient portfolio. So that's why this line from titik MV here to titik A here is called as efficient set, right? So if you want to know more about this, I think you should read from the textbook later on. Okay. Now, what happens if you hold more than 2 stocks? So the shaded area, the efficient set still the same, but the opportunity set different because it will be in the confined region here as compared for the 2 stock. Kalau 2 stock is a curve, right? Curve starts from here to here. It's not a shaded area or it's not a confined region. It's a line, it's a curve. Cuma yang efficient start daripada MV to B. Sama macam many risky asset here. Okay? Right. Okay, the next one. Right, we go to this part. Right. Okay, sometimes the investors wants to combine wants to combine a risky investment with a risk-free asset. Maknanya dalam portfolio dia, okay, tadi kita ambil example A and B are risky asset, but what happen kalau A risky asset, alright, risky stock, combine dalam portfolio you ni dengan stock B which is a risk-free asset. Bila kita kata risk-free asset or risk-free stock, that means standard deviation dia adalah 0. Risky stock maknanya dia ada standard deviation certain value. Let's say stock A tadi standard deviation adalah 25.7% atau 8%. So A is more risky lah and B is zero risk, tak ada risk langsung. So sometimes investors wants to combine with the risk-free asset. Jadi macam ni nak kira expected returns of the portfolio. Jadi you kena weightage in stock A multiply by expected return stock A, sama lah weightage in stock B that is risk free plus multiply by expected returns of stock B, which is risk-free asset. Definitely return stock return stock B is lower than expected return stock A. B's return is going to be lower than stock A. Kenapa? Low risk, low return. Okay, low risk, low return. Okay, right. Look at this example. It is shown here. Let's say Miss Rina considering to invest in two asset, Mutiara, and also another one is in risk-free asset. Okay, the risk-free asset, this one. Expected return 14% untuk Mutiara, untuk risk-free asset 10%. Okay, so as returns on risk-free asset is lower than Mutiara. Mutiara is the risky asset. I just put here, it's a risky asset. So then you can put note. It's a risky asset. Alright. Now, and then the standard deviation of the risky asset definitely higher than risk-free asset lah. Kalau dia kata risk-free, maknanya tak ada risk langsung lah, kosong. Okay. By substituting that figure or plug in the figure into the formula of the expected return, this one kita dah cover. So kita masukkan je berapa kita invest dalam stok Mutiara, berapa kita invest dalam risk-free asset. This is what is mentioned here. You have 1,000 ringgit, Rina, and then they invest 350 ringgit in Mutiara and the balance in risk-free. So 350 ringgit divided by 1,000, you get X to 35% and weightage in risk-free asset 65%. So you are a risk-averse investors lah, right? You are a risk-averse investors because you invest more in the risk-free asset. So therefore, your expected returns from your portfolio is going to be 11.4%. Okay, standard deviation. So this is what I mentioned just now. Okay, when there is a portfolio combining a risky and risk-free asset, okay, that means you have zero risk, right? Okay, tapi what about the covariance? Covariance between stock A and B and risk-free asset, that is stock B then. So maknanya stock A and B has zero covariance. So this is very important. Maknanya stock A and B has no relationship. Whatever happened to the stocks A's return, it has nothing to do with stock B. Katakanlah stock B, return dia tadi adalah returns on stock B, let's say tadi 10%, right? So, stock A, dia punya return is more volatile. Okay? Sebab dia adalah risky asset. It depends on the market condition. Kalau market naik, mungkin return dia naik. Kalau market jatuh, return dia mungkin jatuh. So, the changes in the returns on stock A, right, has nothing to do with the returns on stock B. Stock-based return will maintain at 10%. Maknanya stock-based return masih lagi 10%. Okay, return stock A je yang akan berubah-ubah. A naik, B tetap 10%. Right? A jatuh, B tetap dapat return 10%. Itu maksud dia. That's why covariance tends to be zero. Okay? Right. So that's why when you look at this formula, right, this is the formula untuk standard deviations of the and the variance of the portfolio. Tengok dekat sini, masukkan. Ini dah bagi tadi saya dah tunjuk. So you masukkan Mutiara standard deviation berapa and so on. Dan you notice that standard deviations of risk-free asset adalah kosong. So 0 multiply by weightage dia tadi, then you akan dapat kosong. Plus dengan 2 times weightage in M 0.35 times 0.65 times the covariant relationship between Mutiara and risk-free asset tadi adalah 0. So definitely this portion also becomes 0. So tinggallah bahagian yang ini sahaja, iaitu meant for Mutiara. So that's why standard deviations of portfolio in this case only 7%. Okay, which is square root of 49 lah. 49 is the variance, 7% is the standard deviation. Right? If these investors combine the risky and the risk-free asset. So let's say in another example, Rina borrow 200 ringgit. Right? She borrows 200 ringgit but at the interest rate of risk-free. Okay? combined with her original sum 1,000 just now, and she invests the whole amount 1,200 in Mutiara in risky asset. So, right, what is the weightage, right? And then you multiply by the return. So 1,200 divided by 1,000, the original fund. The total amount invest in Mutiara, you divide by total original fund, okay, owned by Rina, 1,000, then multiply by expected returns of Mutiara, and you plus dengan here you can see negative. You are not investing in the risk-free asset, you are actually borrowing. Yeah, you are actually makes a borrowing from the company ataupun from the what is it? Maybe from the bank. Okay, at the risk-free rate which is 10%. Right, and that's why it becomes negative. The amounts you borrow divide by the amounts you have. Okay, and multiply 100, therefore expected returns of the portfolio become 14.8%. If you combine, okay, if you combine the risky asset and the risk-free asset, there will be a straight line here. Right? Sebab covariance tadi adalah kosong kan. Jadi bila covariance relationship between Mutiara and also risk-free asset tadi adalah kosong, therefore dia punya efficient set, alright, and the opportunity set will be a straight line. Okay? Right. Kalau risky asset combine dengan risk-free asset tadi, there will be this diagram, right, to determine the optimal portfolio. That means a straight line here, that is the risk-free assets line combined with the risky asset. So therefore, we could have many lines sebenarnya. Okay, dalam case ni, kalau kita draw the line, okay, maybe, right, you want to combine, okay, tadi kita combine Mutiara dengan risk-free, jadi line dia akan jadi begini. Right, line 1. Okay, another one, mungkin you combine risk-free asset dengan stock Petronas, so mungkin line 2. Atau you combine risk-free asset dengan apa lagi? Dengan Perodua, so line you mungkin this one. Okay, tapi kalau you invest dalam risky asset just now, kita punya, let's say covariance semua adalah yang ini. So, right, macam mana kita nak determine the optimal portfolio. So the optimal portfolio will be the line, dalam banyak-banyak line ni tadi kita banyak line it will be computerized lah bukan kita yang buat manually, komputer yang akan buat kerja dia. So dia akan identify ada satu line, right, yang kita panggil capital market line, right, yang akan tangential to the curve. Efficient set tadi kat sini. This is MV. Okay, the lowest standard deviation tadi. Okay, right. So dia akan ada satu titik iaitu tangent maknanya dia touch the curve. So this point kita panggil optimal portfolio. Right, that means this optimal portfolio will be considered as a large and also a diversified portfolio. Okay, so this large and diversified portfolio tend to be the same as a market portfolio. Maknanya dah samalah, kita beli stok apa yang ada dekat market dan kita create satu portfolio yang besar, right, dan portfolio tu tadi lebih kurang sama macam market portfolio. Okay, so right, so if your portfolio become larger and become a diversified portfolio, that means your portfolio is actually can be said as a parallel lah, lebih kurang sama, more or less the same as the market portfolio. Okay, right. From that one, kita akan determine the market equilibrium. Okay, so market equilibrium, what is the market equilibrium? Okay, in order to determine the market equilibrium portfolio, we have to make some assumption, right, where the investors have access to similar sources of information. Then they would have the same expected return, variances and covariance. So the same expectation here is called as homogeneous expectation. So when every investors in the market have the same expectation or have the homogeneous expectation, that means they are going to draw, or they are going to sketch the same efficient set of risky asset, the same optimal portfolio. That means they are going to have the same market or diversified portfolio. Maksud dia ialah, okay, dalam market, okay, kita akan ada different investors. So banyak investors one, investors, sorry. Okay, kita akan ada investors 2, investors 3, and etc. Who are interested maybe in a number of stock, masing-masing interested to invest in different stocks. Tapi stock yang available in the market lah. Jadi katakanlah masing-masing tengah buat fundamental analysis company X, company Y, company Z, company apa lagi? Company yes, A, right? Company B. So dia akan, investors ni tadi, macam mana dia study tentang stock ni tadi, pasal company ni. So masing-masing akan refer to the same information. So investors one, kalau dia study company X, so definitely dia akan refer to annual report, dia akan go to the newspaper, dia akan study information about company X on internet, right? And then what about investors two? If investors to study about company X, also these investors also refer to the same sources of information. Investors 3 also refer to the same sources of information like annual report and etc. So they are using the same information, okay, to study about the company. So that means all of these 3 investors here are going to have what, kalau dia nak calculate expected returns of company X, definitely expected returns are going to be the same, right? Kalau dia nak analyze the risk, nak measure the risk of company X, definitely, dan they are using the same information, so definitely they are going to have the same standard deviations of company X. Nampak tak? So that's why kita kata homogeneous expectation. Okay? Yeah. Alright. Okay. Now, so we have now a large and diversified portfolio now. Okay, a large and diversified portfolio that more or less the same as the market portfolio, right? So now, what happened, okay, when you have a diversified portfolio, okay? So in a diversified portfolio, okay, the best measure of the risk of the stocks in the portfolio, that is in a large and diversified portfolio, okay, is beta, right? The variance and the standard deviations of the stocks, right, is no longer exists in the portfolio. So the variance and the standard deviations of the stocks, right, in the large and diversified portfolios are diversified away. Okay, jadi yang tinggal hanyalah systematic risk. Okay, that means now when your portfolio, right, your portfolio now become larger. Okay, and now your portfolio become diversified. Okay, maksud diversified tu tadi adalah portfolio dalam ni banyak stok yang daripada industri yang berbeza. Stok A, stok B, stok C, and etc. Okay, your portfolio now become diversified. Okay, bila portfolio become diversified, dan kita tahu setiap stok tadi bila dah diversified bermakna portfolio risk you tadi has reduced. Okay, kalau kita tunjuk dalam diagram tu tadi, portfolio risk dah jadi begini. Tapi masih lagi ada risk kan yang tinggal, iaitu bahagian yang ini. Yang ini yang kita kata stock, portfolio risk yang remain. in the portfolio, right? The risk that remains in the diversified portfolio, right? Yang kita panggil adalah systematic risk, and this risk will measure by data. What about this one, this portion yang makin lama makin kurang? Yang ini dah jadi zero, right? They are no longer exist in the portfolio, right? Yang ini tadi measured by standard deviations of the stocks. Jadi kita ada dekat sini, kita ada standard deviations of A, standard deviations of B, standard deviations of C. Semua ni tadi dah diversified away. Alright? Yang tinggal sekarang hanyalah systematic risk. Okay? That will be measured by beta. Maksudnya, returns on stock A here is no longer depending on standard deviation. Returns on stock A here is now depending on beta. Okay, returns on stock B now is depending on its beta. Maknanya setiap stock akan ada beta masing-masing. Okay, setiap stock akan ada beta masing-masing. So this beta is measuring the risk of the stock, okay, to the market changes. Okay. So that's why beta is defined as the responsiveness, right, of the stocks return, okay, to the market changes ataupun market movement, which is represented by the market portfolio return. Okay, so dengan kata lainnya ialah okay, return of the stocks dalam portfolio ni tadi akan dipengaruhi oleh beta masing-masing, right? So beta masing-masing akan menentukan berapa banyak return untuk setiap stok. Jadi kalau kita cakap stok A, beta stok A. So beta stok A inilah yang akan mempengaruhi the returns of stock A in this portfolio. Okay. Bila market ni berubah, jatuh ataupun naik market tu tadi, return stock A akan berubah. Tapi berapa banyak return stock A akan respond to the market changes depends on its beta. Kalau market jatuh ataupun naik, dia akan mempengaruhi apa? Return stock B pula. So berapa banyak return stock B akan jatuh atau naik? Again, it depends on its beta stock B. Okay, so go back to the slide. Okay, here, what's the meaning of beta? Beta means what? Responsiveness. It measures the responsiveness of the returns of one stock or any stock in a diversified portfolio to the movement in the returns of market portfolio. Maksudnya dia mengukur bagaimana return sesuatu stok, okay, bagaimana return sesuatu stok itu respon ataupun berubah apabila market return berubah. Maknanya market di luar sana lah berubah. Okay, is it going to be higher, lower, or is it going to be in the same directions as market changes? Itu yang ditentukan oleh data nanti. Alright. Okay, can we take 5? Boleh?
Yes, madam.
Alright, we take 5.